Hello, people. It's your boy Anshumaan back again with another Manchester United podcast. Yes, I promise I will be back. And yes, I said I will be a bit more consistent. We had the show yesterday. Of course, we have got a fantastic show for you lovely people today once again. As always, get comments in and of course, slap a like and subscribe to the channel. As you can see from the title, I have got a special guest on today. It is his debut. Before we get into that, like I've already said, we want to keep it as interactive as possible. As I said on yesterday's show, the most important thing is obviously trying to connect with you, the fans, and obviously the viewers, because that's the most important thing for me. So if you haven't already, make sure you follow me on Twitter, Anshumaan Talks United, so you're aware when I do the next call-in show. But listen, without further ado, making his debut here on Anshumaan Talks United, all the way from India. Listen, fellow Manchester United fan and most importantly, fellow agent. So I'm happy to have the brother on. First time here, Anshumaan C. Welcome to Anshumaan Talks United, my brother. How you doing, my guy? I'm liking the shirt as well.
I'm absolutely fine. Usman bhai, and thanks a lot for having me here. You know, we have been talking, we have been following each other for a very long time, but finally I can make it up here, and it's always great to talk about United, you know, with fellow United fans. So always looking forward to it in terms of getting to know new audiences, getting to know new people, and you know, just sharing the views in general. So it's always great.
Absolutely. And listen, it's a pleasure to have you. As I already said, his name is obviously tagged in the title. It's the United Road on YouTube. So make sure you go subscribe to him as well and obviously follow his social, which you can see on screen. Of course, I will put them in the description as well. But listen, that being said, there's a lot to discuss. All things Manchester United, of course. We did lose to Tottenham Hotspur. Have seen your tweets as well. We will obviously unravel some of them as well. But listen, I just want to get straight into it. As you can see from the title, is Ten Hag to blame? Is Casemiro finished? We're just going to start with the manager because for me, I think obviously everything ends with the manager at the end of the day. So what are your thoughts on the situation? A lot of people are questioning Ten Hag at the moment. Where do you sit with the whole Ten Hag situation? And obviously, you know, have you got any questions regarding the manager, that kind of thing?
To be very honest, you know, we have such a huge fan base that, you know, every bad performance you have, like, you know, so many people reacting in a way that it's end of the world. You know, same people, they were like, oh, you know, we are finished after 2 games last season as well. You know, we are going to get relegated. We are going to get 15th, 16th. And, you know, obviously, as frustration speaks on, you know, they are like, okay, this is going to happen. That is going to happen. I think one thing that Erik Ten Hag needs to understand as a manager as well, that the time of experimenting is over. You know, it's Premier League at this point of time. You are not going to go out and experiment. You know, preseason is over. In the entire preseason, you were playing Sancho as number 9. Comes the Premier League, you start playing Rashford as number 9, which we all know is absolutely rubbish in that position. You know, people come out and say, oh, when a player is getting paid that much money, he should be, you know, not be making complaints. He should be on the top. He should be doing everything. But that's not his skill. It's as simple as that. Tomorrow, you will come out and say, oh, Casemiro gets paid so much money. Let's play him as a goalkeeper. You know, that's not how it works. It's as simple as that. You know, he likes to be on the left-hand side. And he gave us 30-odd goals from majority of the, you know, time from the left-hand side. So Ten Hag needs to understand. I could have understood, you know, the first game, he went with that lineup. In the second game, he wanted to give them a chance again to prove themselves. In the first half, it worked. In the second half, it went into the gutter. But for the third game, now that we have Mason Mount injured already, we all know that. I think one change is definitely going to happen, which is Eriksen coming in. But I want to see Anthony getting dropped because, you know, he is the same guy who dropped Maguire after 2 games. You know, he was the club captain. He dropped him. So now you cannot go out and say, oh, Anthony is not performing. All right, he will keep on getting picked just because you bought him from Ajax. You know, we play differently, but if he is not performing, try different personnel. That's my complaint with Erik Ten Hag. I'm not going to say that, you know, Erik Ten Hag out and all that drama. But yeah, he needs to make the changes. And for the next 2 games, it's very crucial to go into the international break with a positive frame of mind. Because, you know, at that point of time, your transfer window will be over as well. So it's not like you are going to make a lot of changes in that regard. So at this point of time, the one thing which is making me worried is the Amrabat situation. We should have got it done very, very quickly. But I want to see Garnacho going on the bench. I want to see Antony going on the bench. I want to see Sancho starting on the right hand side or even as a false nine. Rashford on the left hand side. And now that Martial is fit, we don't know when he's gonna get injured. So till the time he is fit, get any minutes that you can. Because he might just get injured tomorrow, walking into his washroom. You never know.
Yeah, I think to be fair, just to start with the first point that you made, I think in terms of people overreacting, I do agree with that. I've been extremely critical of Ten Hag within this period, and I think a lot of the points that you make, I do echo them. I mean, the Maguire situation is actually a great point that you made there. Obviously, he dropped Maguire after the second game and essentially said he's not good enough. Oh, well, we didn't say that, but his actions basically said that because he didn't really play after those couple of opening defeats. And there's a couple of players, for me personally, Antony being one of them, who definitely needs similar treatment, because I do think there is an air of complacency with a couple of the Manchester United players that they just, I mean, obviously, I don't know them personally, but you get the sort of feeling that they almost guaranteed to start. Bruno being another one, Rashford being another one, Antony being another one. That's 3 out of the 4 of our front line, and our front line is the main reason we're not actually doing anything in terms of a positive impact. That's been our biggest issue at the moment. So for me, he needs to start shaking it up and dropping people if they're not performing. I mean, obviously, you mentioned a few things there. Obviously, the Rashford one, of course, as you said, it's not time to be experimenting. He had that opportunity in pre-season. For me, he didn't take his opportunity in pre-season. He didn't really try Sancho in the false nine with the main team. He basically put Sancho in with the second team every time in pre-season, and we didn't really get to see if Sancho is capable of playing the false nine with a Rashford or anyone else running off him. So obviously we saw that in moments, but not enough for me personally. That being said, Rashford in strike is never going to work. I just don't understand why you play your best players out of position. I know people will say he's played in strike as well, but 9 out of 10 times he's not had a good game. Yeah, you may have contributed by scoring a goal, but his overall performance in strike has been absolutely shocking. I'm sure people would say the same of his performance on the left wing, but that's a different conversation in general. But he's definitely better on the left wing for me personally. Regarding the right wing, I mean, you tweeted it before a couple hours ago regarding Palestri. I'm a bit confused regarding the Palestri situation, because I feel like every time he plays, even if it's 3 minutes, 5 minutes, whatever it may be, he has an impact on the game. He takes on his man. I mean, he probably got more take-ons in that 3-minute cameo than Antony did in his 80-minute cameo. So for me, it is a bit surprising that he's going out on loan and might be potentially keeping Antony. What are your thoughts on the Palestri situation? He's been linked to a loan move to Sheffield United. Of course, they are in the Premier League as well, but are you for that move, or do you think that's a mistake?
No, to be very honest, in the very beginning of the season, I said either of Amad or Palestri will stay. Either of them will stay. One will definitely go out. We might even see both of them going out. But with our injury situation, I was thinking that one will stay. Now that we have Amad out till January, now that we have Antony on the fringes in terms of his form, and we are still letting go one guy who is basically going, I don't think he's 100% ready for the Premier League. His physicality is not there. Every time there is a shoulder to shoulder, he or Amad, they goes on the ground and referee will be like, just get up, get on with the game. So I don't think they're physically ready yet. But at the same point of time, these are the guys, with their trickery. I don't think Amad is, in Premier League, if you look at that level, he is that confident yet. Even in the preseason when he played in the first 2 games, he had 5 or 10 decent minutes, but after that he faded away. But Palestri is one guy. Even in the 90th minute of the game, he's taking on the goal that he scored in the last minute. That was a prime example of how he was, willing to take on the players even in the 90th minute. So I would give him a game at least against Nottingham Forest. Which I don't think it's going to happen. I am 99% sure Antony is going to start again. And, that's where the frustration of the fans will come in. If he performs, then people will stay quiet. But at the same point of time, if he flops again, Antony will be battered less. The manager will be battered more. And I think he is bringing it on himself, to be very honest, because you have the options. In certain situations when you don't have the option, we can understand. Like last season, you didn't have anybody, so you kept on playing De Gea.
Yeah,
But this time, you have someone like, Pelestri who's waiting. Oh, okay, Amar is injured. It's not there, right? Sancho can play on the right-hand side. You are not trying.
yeah,
At the same point of view, you have Pelestri. So there are changes that needs to be made. As I said, one change is definitely happening since Mason Mount is injured for next 2 games. So hoping that we get to see Pelestri in a bigger role. I'm not saying that start him or play him 90 minutes, but if Anthony is not working for 60 minutes, give that guy 30 minutes.
yeah.
It's just 2 minutes or 3 minutes. It's not going to do any good. It's as simple as that.
Yeah, and I think that's where I'm extremely frustrated. I mean, as you mentioned there with the De Gea situation, he didn't really have another option. I mean, the other option would have been Heaton or, one of these old sort of goalkeepers, so to speak. But with the right wing situation, we do have at least 2 options, if not 3, potentially, if you want to throw Rashford into the mix, although I don't personally think he's good on the right wing. But, that's the biggest frustration for me. I mean, he's putting Bruno Fernandes on the right wing or Mason Mount on the right wing over Pelestri when there's like 20 minutes left on the clock. I just don't understand that logic. I know people will say, he wants to pack the midfield. Clearly, the midfield's getting overrun, so he kept an extra midfielder on there. That would be a fair point if that person, i.e. Bruno Fernandes' case, was actually playing in midfield. When he moves Bruno Fernandes to the right wing, he's actually occupying right wing territory. He's more situated within that side of the field. I mean, if it was just like, we're going to a diamond, then I'll understand, but we don't go to diamond. We literally put Bruno Fernandes on the right wing. And for me personally, I just don't get it. I mean, we've got Pelestri there, as you mentioned, Sancho as well, who's more than capable of doing a job at the right wing. And if anything, Sancho was one of our better players on the right wing come at the end of the season last year. And a lot of fans were calling out for him to play in that position. And even Ten Hag was asked in post-match press conferences, what are your thoughts on Sancho right wing? And Ten Hag openly said he prefers playing on the left wing, but I think he's behind the right wing. So for me personally, he kind of goes against his comments there just to play his favourite, which is Anthony. Look, as you mentioned earlier, the Maguire situation is perfect. He's got absolutely no excuse. He completely dropped Maguire when he was the club captain at that point. And he looks like he's just playing Anthony because he's one of his favourites. I do think what Anthony brings to the team that is different to the other players is his work ethic. I mean, off the ball, he's absolutely phenomenal in terms of his defensive work. And you saw that time and time again, he was pressing people into mistakes. The issue for me is on the ball, he's just shocking at the moment. I mean, he's nowhere near the quality that we need him to be at. I'm not saying he can't reach those levels, but in this moment in time, he's not even showing 10% of the levels of what you'd expect a winger for Manchester United, especially if you compare it to the other top 6 clubs and their right wingers. He's nowhere near any of them. He probably wouldn't even make a top 10 team, in my opinion, at this moment in time. So, yeah, it's extremely alarming that he keeps playing. I'm extremely intrigued to see the situation against Forest. Obviously, we've spoken about Mount there being injured, but more so with the front three, is he going to change it? Because if I see a front three of Rashford in strike again, Anthony on the right wing and Sancho on the left wing, that just shows me, or that just tells me everything that I need to know about Ten Hag. He's not willing to change. He's extremely stubborn, which is becoming very clear and apparent within the fan base that Ten Hag is extremely stubborn and basically set in his ways. Although that can be a good thing, but for me personally, in this situation, it's a massive mistake if he does that. So yeah, I'm worried. I suppose my question to you would be, obviously, as we're on the topic, if you had the choice and if you were Ten Hag, who would your front three be and why?
No, as I said, I will definitely go with Rashford on the left. A guy who gives you 30 goals from the left-hand side majority of the times, in the last season, you are he has hit up like 2 blanks, and we can easily say he barely had a sniff.
Yeah.
Barely. He did not even reach testing the goalkeeper. It was not even there. It's one thing that you are fighting a blank, and it's one thing that you are totally disappeared from the game. So that's what we have seen from Rashford in the very first 2 games. And as I said, the guy who gave you 30 goals from the wing last season, with the striker coming in, I don't expect him to score 30 goals, but I expect his assist numbers to go up. And that will show whether Rashford has matured or not. whether he is finding those passes or not. Because it's one thing, because with them last season he was like a one-man show. He was taking shots from anywhere. He was, getting goals from goals from anywhere. So nobody even bothered, because everybody understood that, at this point of time, he is the one guy who's getting us goals. With Rasmus getting into the equation, most likely in the Forest game. After that, definitely for Arsenal game. With international break coming in, he will be more than ready for the, next level of games. So I think Rashford definitely on the left-hand side. I will start either Sancho or Martial as a striker, and I will go definitely Pelistri on the right-hand side, because if, from against Forest, you don't need that off-the-ball quality so much, because you are going to dominate the possession.
Definitely.
Against, it's like you have to go horses for courses. It's as simple as that. You cannot be stubborn. I would have loved to see someone like McTominay starting against Hotspur. It would have given us such a great balance to deal with the likes of Bissouma and Sarr, because they were absolutely flying. Two 20-year-olds, 21-year-olds, absolutely peak of their physique, peak of their powers.
Yeah.
They were absolutely rattling us in every corner. And McTominay, with his, physicality and with his, disruption of the game, he would have avoided that. He would have just stayed back. He would have given the confidence to Casemiro as well, because he has started slowly as well in this season.
Yeah.
So he would have definitely helped Casemiro as well over there.
Yeah, I mean, it was a bit of a surprise. It didn't sub McTominay on. He actually made 5 substitutions, and McTominay didn't even get on the pitch. So, obviously, given the way the game was going, it did seem like we were lacking physicality. I mean, obviously, you mentioned earlier with Pelistri in particular and Ahmad as well, Diallo, both very technically gifted players, but potentially they may not be physically ready for the league. And I think that is a fair point there. Although I think a lot of fans are crying out for them just out of frustration, really, at this point, because the current attackers are not doing anywhere near enough. Who is it that you said that you put right wing? Sorry, I got Martial and Rashford. Was it Sancho? Did you say?
No, as a striker, I will go with either Sancho as a false and a Martial. Right hand side, I will definitely give Pelistri.
Oh, okay, you will put Pelistri.
I just want to knock the feathers on Anthony's cap that you are not 100% guaranteed starter.
Yeah.
At this point of time, in his head, he is like, I'm starting. Whatever I am doing, I am definitely starting, and I'm playing 70-75 minutes. Even though if I'm rubbish on the pitch, I will play. That's what he's having at this point of time. Once he gets knocked, I am not saying start Pelistri for a moment. Just go with Sancho. Put Martial on top. Now that he played 10 minutes in the last game, put him on top.
Yeah.
Because with Martial, whatever you are getting is a bonus. He can get injured while walking into his, washroom tomorrow morning, and then you will have no Martial for the entire season. So while the time he is fit, try to get as many minutes as you can from Martial. That's it.
Definitely. I'd agree with that. To be honest, with your front three, I'd be happy with your front three. I think for me personally, I'm going to change it slightly. Rashford left wing, I think we both agree on that. It does depend on Martial's fitness, but you do make a good point. Martial could literally get injured walking in the canteen. He's just that kind of guy. So if you can get 60 minutes out of him, I'm sure he should be starting. At the end of the day, it's Nottingham Forest at home. We should really dominate, and Martial's link-up play and overall play is just a lot better than anybody else we've got in that position currently. And for me, I would actually put Sancho on the right wing. I do think Pelistri is also a great option, and I won't be opposed to him starting. But the reason I would pick Sancho is because I actually think he's been our best attacker in pre-season. I do think against Wolves when he came on as well, he was probably our best attacker as well. I mean, it's not really hard because everybody else was shocking. But that being said, I think he looks the sharpest at the front line from what I've seen so far. He looks like someone that's trying to get on the ball and impact it. My only issues with Sancho is off the ball in general is nowhere near good enough, and Rashford is not good enough, and Martial is not good enough. So them three together off the ball could be a major issue against a better team, but against a team like Forest that are very good on the counter attack, there's no denying that. But against a team like Forest, where I expect them to potentially just sit back and allow us to have the ball, I think it's best to have our most technical players on the pitch. And I think Sancho and Martial are those two guys. So yeah, for me personally, that's the front three I'll go with. I don't think Ten Hag's gonna go with that. He's probably gonna go with Rashford down the middle, Sancho on the left, and Antony on the right, which for me is completely wrong. It's just a mistake. As you said as well, I'd rather Sancho was in false nine than Rashford, just because Sancho is actually better in the centre and Rashford's obviously better on the wing. So for me, either or, I just doesn't make sense for me to see Rashford down the middle. I think that's going to be a massive disappointment if I see that, regardless of who else is available. But listen, let's talk about the midfield. You did mention McTominay there very briefly. Does McTominay make your team? Obviously, Mason Mount being injured. Just before we get into McTominay, actually, what are your thoughts on Mason Mount and Bruno Fernandes at the moment, obviously alongside Casemiro? Do you think that midfield can work, or do you think it's just a matter of there's no balance?
It will work in certain games. And I still feel that against, quality opposition, like the way Arsenal plays, like the way, City plays, I will still go with four midfielders, like the way we went at Old Trafford and we got the win against City. We absolutely flooded our midfield. We played Eriksen as well, Casemiro as well, Fred as well, Bruno as well. So in that sort of where we are against a team which is expected to dominate against us in terms of possession, we can definitely go with those four guys in the midfield. Obviously not Fred anymore. But yeah, overall, in terms of what we are expecting, unless or until Mount realizes that he needs to stick with Casemiro throughout the game. It's not Chelsea. You cannot roam around freely. You're not playing as number 10. Either Mount, either Bruno, they both need to understand that one guy should be staying with Casemiro behind. It's as simple as that. You cannot let him, Casemiro just look like an absolute pile of trash in the middle of the park because he's just staying alone. He's not getting the help. Obviously he's not like 5%, right? That he can go out and he can put everybody in order. In the first game against Wolves, he was there all alone.
Yeah.
The heat map was shocking. It was just Casemiro over there, and there is nobody around him. And then people are like, oh, he's finished. Yeah. No, as I said, people overreact after 2 games. I think this midfield will work in majority of the games, but then this midfield won't work against the teams, which are expected to keep a lot of ball and who have, technically gifted players and who can hurt you. Like this midfield will go absolute bonkers in terms of chance creation and all that against Everton, against Sheffield, against Luton, against, even like so Brentford and all. But you put this midfield at Anfield or at Etihad or at Emirates, they will hit you for at least 5.
Yeah, minimum.
Minimum 5.
Yeah,
so
to be honest. Yeah, that Emirates game was a massive worry. Obviously, we know Mason Mount's realistically not going to make that game now. So I know it sounds really bad, but I'm somewhat happy that he's got a couple of weeks off. I think it's better for him as well, just an opportunity for him to reassess his role as well within the team and maybe understand it a bit more as well with a bit more time on the training pitch, that kind of thing. Obviously, we know he's injured, but from what we've heard, it's nothing particularly serious. But yeah, that being said, I completely agree. I do think against any team that's good in transition or good in the counter attack in general, I think we're just going to struggle massively. I mean, the fact that Wolves were able to counter attack us with such ease is embarrassing, to be honest. Wolves are not renowned for their attacking prowess. I mean, that's one of the reasons the manager got sacked or left or whatever the situation was. They have been dire in the final third, as we know, but in general, their overall play hasn't been particularly good. And we made them look like a prime boss in transition. We really did. They absolutely destroyed us. I mean, the stats speak for themselves, really. We got lucky. We got 3 points that day. But that being said, regarding Casemiro, I mean, there's been a lot of conversation within the United fan base and media outlets and journalists, Carragher in particular, essentially saying Casemiro is finished or he's on his downward spiral. For me personally, I've spoken on this on a few occasions already, but I just think he's going to get a scapegoat this season. It'll be interesting to see how he fares without Mason Mount and if it is a case that he is actually struggling with rustiness or lack of fitness. But for me personally, Casemiro has more than enough credit in the bank from last season. He was absolutely outstanding, arguably my player of the season. And I just think it's a bit reaction really to be questioning him in this manner off the back of such a phenomenal season. So yeah, he hasn't been fantastic. I'm sure you've probably seen the stats, but if you haven't, 3 Man United midfielders are the top of the statistics for players being taken on or players being dribbled past even. Bruno Fernandes on 7, Casemiro on 6, and Mason Mount on 4. I mean, that's basically a testament to the overall picture being they're all an issue. They don't work cohesively. There's no communication within that midfield. It's just an absolute mess. Shout out to Shai saying he's late. Thank you for coming through, my brother. But yeah, for me, I just think it's a midfield balance thing rather than a Casemiro thing. I do think it's a bit naive to just blame it on Casemiro. As you said, he is getting 1v5, 1v3 a lot of the time in transition. He was basically getting outnumbered pretty much every attack. So yeah, that for me, obviously quite a worrying thing. But yeah, moving on. Obviously with that midfield in obviously against Forest. So who are you putting in? I think you mentioned it earlier. I personally going for Eriksen, but who would you put in for Mason Mount?
Eriksen, as I said, nothing changes, in the game against Forest. It doesn't have to change much. As I said, Mason Mount goes out because of injury. We have Eriksen we can go with. So nothing to change over there. I will be definitely waiting to see how it goes with Arsenal game. Now that we know Mason Mount won't be there as well. So for that game, I would love to see a certain McTominay. If we don't have Amrabat till then, if we have the Amrabat, start that guy straight away. Like seriously, don't even wait. Don't even wait. Put him even if he plays for like 45 minutes. If he gets absolutely, what you said, drained after 45 minutes on the pitch, it's fine. Bring on McTominay, but start that guy for 45 minutes. We have to get Amrabat before the Arsenal game at any cost. It's as simple as that.
Definitely.
People even on social media, they are saying, it's a master plan by Erik and Haag, to make sure that Mason Mount has got injured in a way that he will be back after international break, and in the meanwhile we can get Amrabat, just like he did with Sabitzer last season when Eriksen was injured for 2 months. He said he's out for the season, and he got somehow Sabitzer. So maybe masterstroke, but yeah, we need Amrabat.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I mean, obviously, Amrabat sadly is not available for Saturday. So, as you said, Eriksen's the obvious option. I think for me personally, Amrabat it's an absolute no-brainer. I've been saying it for so long now. It's actually ridiculous that deal has not been done. Of course, there's a lot of speculation that the reason it's not been done is because we haven't sold players. It does seem like that is apparently true. Based on the fact that we haven't actually made that deal happen. James was saying credit in the bank will not win as a league. Absolutely spot on. By no means am I saying that Casemiro should get off scot-free. By all means, he definitely deserves criticism if he's not performing. And of course, whatever happened last season doesn't, change my opinion on a player this season. Hence why I'm being extremely critical of Bruno and Rashford in particular. The reason I say he's got credit in the bank is because I do think last season that we had a bit more of a balanced midfield. And of course, the only time he's played with Eriksen this season was against Wolves, that 30-minute period. And I thought we were massively improved within that period. Whether it was because Wolves allowed it to, I don't know. But I do feel like Casemiro definitely needs someone next to him. And I felt like we've left him exposed. So yeah, I say credit in the bank because he's proved last season when he's with someone who's actually has defensive capabilities, he looks a bit better. Obviously, the issue with Eriksen in particular was his legs. So obviously that was a major concern. But yeah, moving forward from that, there have been a couple of concerns with the defense as well. In particular, Martinez. Actually, everyone apart from Varane, to be fair. Varane's kind of not had any criticism. For me, I think Varane's been fantastic so far this season, although only been 2 games. Let's start with the fullbacks. What have you made of the fullback situation? Obviously, Luke Shaw under a lot of criticism, as is Wan-Bissaka off the back of that defeat. What have you made of them two in particular? And obviously, would you change either of them two as well?
To be very honest, we don't have a backup at this point of time for Luke Shaw. But at times we need to understand we want to play with the, inverted fullbacks and everything. It's all fine, right? But then you also have to look at the players who are playing alongside them. When Pep plays inverted fullbacks, look at his centre backs and look at the midfielders he got. If Erik and Haag is trying to play the inverted fullbacks, Wan-Bissaka looks like a clown, who doesn't have any game sense of what's going on behind him when we play inverted fullbacks. In the last game, that the goal that Sarr scored, look at where Luke Shaw is. He's basically more closer to the keeper than he is to the Kulusevski.
Yeah.
So it's a total brain fade. Like total brain fade. It cannot go. It cannot go the way that he wants to play, unless or until, as I said, if you have someone like Amrabat shifting in that midfield, who can absolutely cover every inch of the grass. He can be physical and he can take a foul or two for the team. The inverted fullbacks against teams who are not great with quality. But in the Premier League, there are very few teams who are not great with the quality. That's why it's the best league in the world. So inverted fullbacks in every game, it's not going to work. As I keep on saying, horses for horses, it's the way to go. It just doesn't have to be inverted fullbacks every game. Inverted fullbacks means that you are too narrow. Then you have your defenders narrow as well. You leave behind so much space that the guys keep on wreaking havoc on you guys. It's as simple as that. Kulusevski was running like it's not even there. There was not even a single player. He just kept on running, went inside, crossed the ball, Sarr scored. It's not going to keep on happening. Simple as that. So inverted fullbacks, at times it will work. But as I said, I will still go with Wan-Bissaka because defensively, I think Dalot is not even 10% of what Van can do.
Yeah.
And offensively, apart from the step overs, Dalot does nothing. So I will go with Wan-Bissaka. I will go with Luke Shaw because Malacia is injured anyway.
Yeah.
And even if he was fit, I don't think he would have replaced Luke Shaw. So he had a bad game, but at the same point of time, we have seen Luke Shaw every season. He takes like 3-4 games to basically get his season up and running. We always hope that it's from the first game, but majority of the players that we have feels like they are still in the vacation mode for the first 2-3 games, and then they get back, to their job that they can do. So fullbacks, like back five for me, like back four and the keeper, it will stay the same for me.
Fair enough. I mean, Luke Shaw, to be fair to him, should have got an assist. I mean, Bruno Fernandes obviously missing that big chance coming off one of his crosses. I think my biggest disappointment is just the lack of fitness. I mean, it does look like the players are tired, which isn't an excuse because we've had a proper pre-season. But it just looks like compared to the other teams, we're off the pace for whatever reason. I mean, it's just a bit disappointing. I think Luke Shaw in particular, as you mentioned, I don't understand what he's doing. His position has been absolutely shocking. I mean, for that first goal, as you said rightly, he was so close to Onana. It did end up deflecting on Luke Shaw, and it was a bit fortunate in the manner which it fell to them, but they deserved their look given the way they played in the second half, to be fair to them. But for me personally, Luke Shaw was poor. I mean, defensively, absolutely shocking. He wasn't tight enough to his man. He was lacking that aggression that we see from him. His ability on the ball wasn't there as well. Maybe he had it for the first 35 minutes, within obviously the first 35 minutes of the game, but he definitely fell off a cliff alongside a lot of other players. And I do think that might be down to fitness. But as you mentioned, we don't have cover for Luke Shaw, so he kind of gets away with it and keeps his spot. But for Wan-Bissaka, I do actually disagree with you on Wan-Bissaka. Although Dalot is not an upgrade by any stretch of the imagination, I actually think we need a right back personally. I don't particularly rate either of them that highly.
Yeah, I definitely. I don't rate either of them. I want at least one who can be better than them. At this point of time, we have basically two right backs. One can attack, one can defend. That's not how you're going to win the Premier League. Simple as that.
Yeah, for me, it's just a mid-off, as they say on Twitter. The only reason I'd pick Dalot is because I do think Wan-Bissaka's positioning was absolutely shocking. For a lot of the attacks were coming down the wings, of course, but it just when the ball was coming from one wing to the other, he's just completely out of position constantly, just allowing players run around him, not tracking his mind, just switching off constant. And again, I'm not saying Delor's going to come in and pull up trees by any stretch of the imagination, but it also makes Wan-Bissaka aware that his position is up for grabs. And I don't want him to become complacent, because to be fair to Wan-Bissaka, he has stepped up a lot off the back of competition. And we've seen that with Luke Shaw as well. It's a shame he doesn't have that competition at the moment. But yeah, for me, I would actually probably swap Wan-Bissaka out, because I don't think Delor can do worse. And we are playing against a team that we should really dominate the ball. So I'm hoping, Delor can obviously help us. And to be fair, he did score against Nottingham the last time he played. So, which was, in Anthony's defense, great play from him for the goal and assist that game. But yeah, that doesn't mean he starts. But yeah, that being said, just going to go through a bit of transfer news with yourself, and then obviously we'll wrap it there. Just before we go into that, obviously to everyone that is tuning in, please do slap a like on the video, and of course subscribe to the channel. As you can see, our socials are on the screen, and of course his YouTube channel is in the title as well, so make sure you go subscribe to his channel. Very straightforward, obviously hit the link, that kind of thing. But yeah, listen, let's just get a couple of comments in. Got a question here. Do you think players we signed are Erik ten Hag first choice players? What do you make of that? What do you reckon?
I think, we all know how badly he wanted someone like Frankie de Jong, So I think in that position, he never got his first choice. We all know he wanted Kane, but at the same point of time, that was not realistic, because we all know Levy was never going to sell. So I think majority of the players that he has got is basically what he actually wanted. So in that regard, there is no complaints. There should be no complaints from Erik ten Hag, because he wanted Onana, he got Onana. He wanted Mason Mount, he got Mason Mount. He wanted Højlund, he got Højlund. We are yet to see from Højlund, but yeah. Casemiro, we can see a bit of a panic buy, but I think Casemiro is one of the best signings that we have done. If we can make few more panic buys like that, younger panic buys, that would be great. But yeah, I think at this point of time, I think, every signing that's been made, Lisandro, Antony, Casemiro, Onana, I think all those signings are Erik ten Hag's first choice signing, more or less. So I think he cannot complain about that.
Yeah, I mean, I'd have to probably agree with a lot of what you said there. I do think a lot of the signings are his first choice. Of course, Frankie de Jong being the obvious one. I mean, actually, to be fair, maybe Harry Kane was his first choice as well. We're not 100% sure regarding that. But it did seem interesting how, Harry Kane was made available, and the reports came out that Manchester United is still focusing on Højlund. So it kind of makes me think Højlund was his first choice. For me personally, I would have actually dropped Mason Mount and Højlund and bought Harry Kane, but that's a completely different conversation. But for me personally, time will tell regarding Højlund. He hasn't kicked a ball yet for Manchester United, so we can't really say much about that signing, whether if it's the right choice or not. But regarding Ten Hag's signing so far, for me, Antony is the biggest one that seems like it's going to be a waste of money. But again, time will tell. He's got at least this season to prove himself. James saying here, yep, you can't blame the board. Everything. Board for everything. These were Erik ten Hag signings. Also, just shout out to Mattia as well. Obviously, always showing love. Shout out to Shivam as well. And obviously, I've already shouted out Shahid, who's in the chat as well. Mohammed's got a question here. Big up, guys. I'm assuming that's what I'm going to say. I hope you're well. I'm doing well, Mohammed. Hopefully, you're well, my brother. We need transfers ASAP. Absolutely. Two midfield is vital for us. So, question I'm going to ask to you, bro. Two midfielders. Who are you going for? I feel like I know the answer is anyways, but just for the sake of the conversation, if you could sign, actually, you know what? I'm gonna flip that. If you could sign two players right now, I have to be realistic. Who are you signing? What positions? What are you going for? What do you reckon we need the most?
I will go for Amrabat, and I will go for Tademi. These are the two guys I'm going for.
Who's the second one? Sorry.
Mehdi Tademi, the striker from Porto.
Oh, okay. Why him? Why would you think he's gonna come and make a difference?
I think that's the experience that we need. He's 30. He has scored goals for Porto in the Champions League, even in the league for them. He's gonna cost like 20-25 million, not more than that. So he can be a beautiful foil to someone like Højlund. I'm not saying that Tademi is a guy who will give you 25 goals, but for us, for a backup and a guy who stays fit throughout the season with European experience, I think that would be a valuable asset.
Yeah, I mean, he was linked to us a lot, and I was actually quite on board with the signing, to be honest, because he's got fantastic hold-up plays, link-up plays, quite good. Obviously, I'm not saying he's on the level of Giroud, but similar style of play to Giroud in terms of his ability to bring players into the game. As you said, he's got a vast experience within Europe as well. So I think he would be an interesting second option. I do think we need more goals in the team, so I would probably go for a second striker as well. I think Amrabat is a no-brainer. I don't need to go with that again. Other options in strike, there's not really many. I think João Felix potential alone is available. I have in the past said that I would definitely go for João Felix. However, now that I look at the situation with United, is he the clinical striker that we need? I'm not sure he is. So yeah, Taremi is definitely a good shout. I'm not really sure who else is out there. I mean, I would have loved to have a player like Giroud, to be honest, just someone that can hold the ball and bring players into the game. Would you take a punt on Lukaku? Unknown.
Never. I would rather play without a striker than take a punt on Lukaku. I would rather play. You will need those guys will put up more effort. They will score more goals than Lukaku.
Yeah, I agree. I don't want Lukaku either, but I just thought I'd ask anyways. Mohammed saying Gravenberch and Amrabat, we need them to help Casemiro in this role, and others can express attacking midfield. I mean, just to finish off, what are your thoughts on Gravenberch? Because obviously we've spoken about Amrabat to the hills. Would you take Gravenberch, or do you think obviously that's another ex-Ten Hag player? Obviously, he was very good at Ajax with Ten Hag. Would you take him, or do you think it's that ship has sailed, so to speak?
No, I will take him because he can be a very good loan move. He's one guy with which we have nothing to lose basically. If we can get someone like him alongside Amrabat, that would be like a win-win.
Definitely.
But as I said, at this point of time, I don't see that happening because Bayern doesn't want to sell.
Yeah, it does seem like they want to. Well, they don't want to sell him, do they, Gravenberch? But I would take him on a loan. He's not really getting any minutes there. Obviously, if he comes to us, I feel like it'll be similar to Sabitzer in the sense that he wants to start, and I don't think we can guarantee him to start. Especially if we get Amrabat as well. I feel like Amrabat is a nail-on starter for me in this current situation alongside Casemiro. It just shows us up, and it would actually probably bring the best out of Bruno Fernandes as well, with him knowing that he's got that stability behind him. So obviously he can flourish a bit. But yeah, as you said correctly, I think the second signing, if it is to happen, needs to be striker. It does seem like we are going to get a goalkeeper. The guy from I think it's Fenerbahce. I can't remember his name for the life of me.
Yeah.
It looks like €5 million, which isn't a lot of money, of course. And it does look like Henderson could be on his way out. I believe. I think it was Crystal Palace, if I'm not mistaken. I might be wrong. That were interested in him. Yeah, obviously they've got Sam Johnson, so I'm a bit surprised to why they'd be interested in Henderson. Because Johnson, to be fair to him, has done great at Palace so far. I've actually got him in FPL as well, but that's a side topic. But listen, that being said, it's been a fantastic first show. We're going to wrap it there. Obviously, I have got a show on Thursday as well with Alice, and obviously we'll go into a bit more detail talking about ourselves leading into that game against Forest, and obviously how we're going to line up that kind of thing. But listen, before we go, as always, I just want to say a massive thank you to everyone that's tuned in. If you're watching this on repeat, make sure you slap a like, subscribe to both our channels. You can find his channel in the title, the United Road, and obviously, as you can see on screen as well. Before we go, my brother, just let the people know where they can find you, what your socials, where can they follow you, that kind of thing.
All right. So, it will be very easy for me to actually drop the socials, So I will just put it out. It won't take a lot of time. I can take the name, but I will just go out and I will just give me 1 second.
No, it's fine. Obviously, whilst he's doing that, obviously you can see his socials. They are tagged in the tweet. I'm sure most of you, if you haven't already, you are following me on Anshumaan Talks United on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and of course, obviously subscribe.
Yeah, so I have already put it up. This is my Twitter.
There we go.
Yeah, get me on Insta. This is my.
Love to see. Obviously, make sure you follow him on Twitter as well. Like I said, obviously, fellow Asian brothers, great to have a fellow Asian, and that's absolutely fantastic. And there we go. We've got another social there for you lovely people. Thank you so much for everyone that has tuned in. As always, make sure you keep it locked in here We'll be back on Thursday at 8 o'clock, maybe 7 o'clock with Alice, of course. I will obviously update you on Twitter, potentially back tomorrow as well if any news breaks. Hopefully with the signing, because I'm sure most United fans, like myself, are extremely desperate for someone to come over the line. But that being said, it's been a great show as always. Make sure you subscribe for more. It's been your boy, Smile.